podcast, what to expect in 2022 in employment law as we close out the year 2021, and it has been, wow, what a year in 2021, not just for my law office, but for employment law in general. I mean, folks, there have been all kinds of new trends, new issues. I remember when I was in law school in the early 90s, and you did your constitutional law class, and kind of what you were told was, this is kind of like a side thing. I mean, the real action in law is going to be in tort claims, it's going to be in criminal law, it's going to be in business law. At that point, intellectual property, the internet was kind of getting going. It was like at the infant stages of things. But no one ever dreamed that we would be living in an era 30 years later or so where constitutional law is front and center. And this trend is going to continue. And of course, it starts with the vaccine mandates. The well-intended government officials, starting with President Biden, who believes that mandates kind of work, even though he ran against them. In any event, without getting political here, the question is whether they work or not. Are they constitutional? And what do you do with the employees who have religious exemptions or medical exemptions or anything like that? And what do you do as more and more variants come out? It doesn't look like this problem of COVID-19, and whether it's the Delta variant or Omicron or whatever's next, is going to slow down or stop anytime soon. And as I record this podcast today, the mayor of New York City, has issued some sort of mandate about requiring pretty much all employers to have all employees vaccinated. There's going to be no testing option there. And how will government even enforce that? I mean, in the first place, you have so many people who are in New York City in particular who are from other countries who don't even have a green card or a visa or whatever it is. I mean, you're talking about just major issues in terms of search and seizure laws, in terms of Fourth Amendment violation issues. That trend is going to really, really pick up. Another issue that's going to come up related to vaccine mandates and enforcement is going to be the OSHA regulations. And what happens with OSHA, in essence, is that what you're going to have is many issues of this is where the government kind of tries to put in these vaccine mandates. There's litigation right now about whether OSHA was ever intended to do this, and most likely it wasn't. I mean, OSHA is generally for safety issues that occur at work. Okay, something like the scaffold has to be of a certain weight and a certain size and a certain stability. So we don't want construction people or painters or window washers falling to their deaths. It was never designed for something like pandemics. That issue is going to surely come up again and again. Another big trend, not even a trend, another issue in 2022 is Justice Breyer going to retire? This is going to be a real question, because right now conservative bend of the court is really 5-4. Roberts generally votes with the more liberal judges, even though he was the chief judge that was put forth by George W. Bush. But he's not necessarily certainly not a right-wing judge, let alone he's certainly not as conservative as someone like Clarence Thomas. But you're talking about a 5-4 court kind of right now. And if Justice Breyer retires while the Democrats still have the majority, barely, but they still do, in the U.S. Senate, that means that President Biden will be able to get the next nominee through, and the balance will remain 5-4. Okay, but if he doesn't retire, and then let's say, heaven forbid, next year or the year after, he passes away. I mean, he is in his mid 80s. Right? The question then is, with a Republican Senate, do you really believe there is going to be another liberal justice anytime soon? Most likely not. That's going to affect the court decisions on some of these things. Now, ironically, it might be the conservative court that shoots down these mandates more than the traditional liberal Sotomayor, Elena Kagan types. But that is going to be a trend, which is going to surface. I mean, just moving away from COVID, there are a few other issues that are going to be trendy in 2022. Okay, one of them is the unfair use of non-compete clauses by our nation's employers. That basically the Federal Trade Commission has enacted, we don't know how it's going to be played out, but there is some executive order that they can now restrict in some way non-compete agreements. There are trends to do this for lower waged workers. A number of states already have this, but is that going to be a national thing? And then just speaking of the Supreme Court, is that even constitutional? Can the Federal Trade Commission even do that? You're going to have a lot of these issues of what you see, and we have like this nationalized view of government somehow, that what we kind of need here is that things are best run from Washington, D.C. I mean, now, whether people believe that or not, I'm sure there's all kinds of opinions on when that's appropriate or not, but you're going to have a lot of challenges to this kind of legislation, which might be well intended, but how is this going to affect your non-compete agreement? How is it going to affect non-compete agreements that are already out there? How is it going to affect non-compete agreements when they spring them on work at you in the middle of 2022? These are going to be issues. Another issue, this is one of my favorite ones, is going to be tattleware. Okay, what in the world is that? Well, as more people work from home, employers can, and what they've been doing is they put on like certain kind of spyware, which takes pictures of you as you're working. And the theory is they want to make sure that you're really working and you're not playing solitaire or Candy Crush or doing whatever else people do if they would be at home or at work, wherever they're doing this stuff. Okay, so can the employer actually do that, and to what extent? Here's another issue. Let's say I'm supposed to make, 100 widgets every 3 hours. That's my quota. And I'm at work, I make my 100 widgets, only I get so smart at it and so efficient, I do it now in an hour and a half instead of 3 hours. What do I do now? Am I required to go ahead and keep working? Meaning, is my job really, once the employer says this is a quota thing, and I'm making the quota, so do we care even if the guy does this at 4 a.m. or 4 p.m.? Do we care how fast or how slow the person is? I mean, in essence, once there's a quota of productivity that the employer puts down and the employee is making that quota and he's working at home, so there's no commuting, there's no, which is why so many people have gotten so much more efficient at their jobs, because they're not living with the distractions that you have at work. So now you have issues of, to what extent is this person an independent contractor? Who can take the home office deduction? Can the employer now take that? Can the employer say, listen, we'll pay you in terms of part of your salary, we'll pay you a portion of your rent if you're renting an apartment for that third bedroom that you're using as an office? Can we pay part of the mortgage as part of a salary? I mean, people are doing this. So you're going to have all kinds of tax issues with that. You're going to have all kinds of privacy issues, all kinds of control issues. And I think these are going to be the trends that are going to pick up in 2022. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens, because I think that unfortunately, with the new variants, it looks to me, at least, and I'm no prophet, but it looks to me like this COVID-19 thing is going to be here for a few years, at least. Vaccines and all. If you've got an issue at work and you need advice, counsel, what to do, how to deal with these issues, what's the best way to deal with them, give our office a call. We're here to help.